Tēnā koutou, rau rangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. My name's David Haynes. I've been asked by Sarah to spend 5 minutes today talking about the paper that I wrote about the status of kindergartens. And I'll really try hard to stick to 5 minutes for that 24-page paper. But before I do that, I'd like to acknowledge that Nicola has made the effort to come out at the weekend on a Sunday, and we really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to acknowledge Sarah's work in organising the event. How do I get in here? Right, I think we're cooking with gas, so bearing in mind that there are other speakers and then you'll all want a lot of conversation, and I'm not an ECE teacher, so I know nothing, you don't want to listen to me. I'll be as quick as I can. But before I start... We've got a bit of time, don't you sure? Yep. Now this should... Okay. Because the Minister is not here, I thought I'd speak for him and maybe mention a few of the things that he would have said to you if he were here. And you're probably very all familiar with that quote from the Prime Minister. My magic device is not working, so I'm going to be ducking down like this, if you'll excuse me. I think you'd all agree that investment in children is one of the most important investments any government can make. And it was the Labour Party that said that. So they believe in the sector. All we now need to do is help them make the decision to fund the sector appropriately. I found that on your website, Nicola. And again, National believe that it's an important area. I thought you might like to see what's on the Green Party website. And that's a very clear statement. And one of the things about that struck me was based on qualifications and responsibility. And if you think about where in ECE would you see the most responsibility? Personally, I would see the most responsibility being amongst those teachers who are making the biggest difference to our children's future. And that's those who are working with children in their first 1,000 days of life. In those first 3 years, you are setting up these children for success or failure in the future. So if you're doing that, thank you very much. And the Green Party think that if they take my interpretation, you should get lots of cash. Okay, my 5 minutes starts now. I'm sorry this isn't working, because just dumping something down, it was working earlier, I tested it. And it's not. Okay, everything I say today is my own personal opinion. I am on the committee of a charitable early childhood education centre, but what I'm saying is what I'm saying, so to the media in the room, you can quote me, but don't attribute my remarks to anybody else. You should all be interested in this, whether you work in kindergarten or not. Kindergartens currently have pay parity, and I think it's critically important that they keep it, because if they lose it, how on earth are we going to get everybody else up to that level? So we all need to make sure that kindergartens retain pay parity. And you'll see me mentioning fairness and lawfulness a couple of times, well, lots of times, in the next 4.5 minutes. And this is the spoiler alert. Those of you who have seen my 24-page paper, which I sent through to all sorts of people, I've now had a response from the Ministry. And I'll be addressing what they say later. But what's the fuss about? The State Sector Act defines the education service as part of the state sector, and it's specific things in the state sector in the education service that are covered. So it covers free kindergarten associations controlling free kindergartens within the meaning of section 120 of the Act. I don't know anything that's free anymore. What's the Education Act actually say? Well, first up, it's not Section 120 anymore. That was repealed years ago. Section 348 talks about a free kindergarten, which is somewhere whose licence permits no child to attend for a period of more than 4 hours on any day. So with that, you'd say, well, a free kindergarten is the old-fashioned sessional kindergarten. I don't know that any of them exist anymore. There is another definition further on in Section 348 that says a free kindergarten means an ECE centre that's controlled by a free kindergarten association for the purpose of establishing kindergartens. The unfortunate thing with that is that's a definition, so you'd expect the terms inside it to also be clearly defined, and nowhere in the Act is the word kindergarten defined, and nowhere in the Act is a free kindergarten association defined. So anyone can call themselves a kindergarten, any association can call itself a free kindergarten association. So it doesn't mean anything. So I asked myself the question, is there actually such a thing as a kindergarten? Well, the word is not protected as a trademark. You go to the Intellectual Property Office, you'll have specific kindergartens who are protecting their own names there, but the word kindergarten isn't protected in any way. So any ECE centre can call itself a kindergarten perfectly legally. Sessional kindergartens, as we saw, are covered by Section 348, but there are none of them left. So what makes a kindergarten different to anywhere else? Well, centres that have historically called themselves kindergartens were all charitable. But lots of other centres are charitable, so that doesn't make a difference. There's no distinction there. In the eyes of the law, I am asserting there is no such thing as a kindergarten. Everyone is just an early childhood education and care centre. So, there aren't kindergartens. Sorry for people who work in kindergartens. You might be surprised when you turn up to work tomorrow and you're still there, even though you don't exist. But why is this important? I'm asserting that the State Sector Act does not cover kindergartens, and I'm not alone in that. The State Services Commissioner, and it's his act we're talking about, has a list on their website of every organisation that is in the state sector. And there are heaps there. There are government departments, ministries, there are trusts, there are companies, there are all sorts of things, but there are no kindergartens, and there are no kindergarten associations, free or otherwise. They're not in the list from the State Services Commissioner, which purports to be a comprehensive list. So he and I are on the same page. And it's important whether you're covered by the State Sector Act or not, because the collective agreement is negotiated with one of the parties being the Secretary for Education as the employer, and she's negotiating under a delegation from the State Services Commissioner issued pursuant to the State Sector Act. And as kindergartens aren't covered by the State Sector Act, that delegation is, in my eyes, void. And what that means is, if you're going to go down this straight legalistic interpretation, when the NZEI want to negotiate with the employer, it's not the Ministry of Education, it's each individual employer. And why is that significant? Because the individual employers don't control the purse strings in the Ministry of Education, so they can't promise pay parity. And while we're talking about funding and pay, because there is no such thing as a kindergarten, I'm asserting that it is unfair and unlawful that the ECE funding handbook allocates more funds to kindergartens than it does to other ECE centres. So, what should be done about this? Well, what I think should be done is the State Sector Act needs to be amended quickly so that the collective agreement can be negotiated legally. And I recommended that in my paper. We need to find something to put in the State Sector Act, because you can't just say we're covering kindergartens because there is no definition of them, and there's no easy way of defining one. They were charitable, well, they still are charitable, but so are many other ECE centres. And if you can identify an early childhood education and care centre, which is a defined term in the legislation, and those that are charitable, that's another defined term, so you can work with that easily in a quick amendment to the Act. So I suggested that the State Sector Act should rapidly be amended to include and cover ECE centres that have charitable status. Your next piece of work is to look out for the Public Service Bill, because this whole Act has been completely renewed and rewritten. It's going to be introduced to Parliament soon, and when it goes before Select Committee, you'll have an opportunity to input to that, and you all should. Now, that's what I think should have been going on, what has been done. The Kindergarten Association, the Kindergarten Collective Agreement is being negotiated right now based on what I believe is flawed advice to the Minister, and that leaves it open to challenge in the courts. And the last thing we want is for this whole thing to be going through some lengthy and protracted court process because the basis on which the agreement was negotiated is legally flawed. And the other thing that's being done is I got that letter completely rejecting my little 24-page document, and they're asserting that free kindergartens exist, and I'm asserting that they don't. There were some other things in the letter which I will just touch on should you be interested, not necessarily related to pay, but while we're talking about this letter, the Ministry of Education tell me that teachers need to instruct children on a daily basis. This is in the definition of the word teacher in the Act, says that you instruct children. Now, I don't know how comfortable you are with having your defining characteristic as being the instruction of children. Just have a think about that and how it fits with everything being child-led and everything else. The other thing that the Ministry said in their letter to me was that kindergarten services have a special relationship with government. Now, we saw earlier on the Auditor General saying that public organisations have a fundamental public law obligation to always act fairly and reasonably, and what they do should be open and impartial. And if you have a special relationship with one group of ECE centres, how can you be impartial when you're dealing with all ECE centres? So thank you for your attention. That's 24 pages in 5 minutes.
This is where people will share their stories and their insights and their views. Can I first ask Janet Dixon to come and talk with us?
Kia ora, aloha. Hi, my name is Janet Dixon, and I think Sarah didn't ask me for the colour of my hair. I think it's more that I've been involved in early childhood since the late 1960s, which kind of ages me, but can you hear me down the back? Because one of the things I have is to throw my voice. Thank you. Will you do that if you can't? Thank you. No, I don't like microphones. Thank you. I remember a friend of my father's saying to my father when I said I want to be an early childhood teacher, she's got a better brain than that, she's more intelligent. Of course, this only increased my desire to be an early childhood teacher. But recently I've been wondering if it's still the way this country thinks. You don't have to have a brain to be with children. What's happened to New Zealand? What's happened to our reputation of a wonderful, holistic curriculum, quality centres and well-qualified, committed teachers? The curriculum still has a strong reputation, I believe, overseas. We can be very proud of that. The well-qualified, committed teachers are certainly still here. Look at you all. But whatever happened to the higher numbers of qualified teachers, smaller group numbers, especially for younger children, and financial support for trained teachers doing a professional job? Is what we see actually a lack of value for babies and young children, and misunderstanding about how these children grow and develop? Some exciting things have been substantially researched in New Zealand by the Brainwave Trust about how young brains develop in cortisol-free situations with adults who understand the effect of attachment and this calmness. But I heard a couple of weeks ago that there has been a large increase in the reports about children and teachers in centres being hurt, sometimes seriously, by other children. Does this describe a cortisol-free environment with wise, trained teachers? I want to know if our young children are happy and learning in a safe environment. Does this situation rather reflect minimum numbers of professionally trained teachers on the lowest pay scale with other untrained adults with maximum regulation numbers of children so that employers can cream off, as I understand it, 18 million profit annually? What are the ethics in that? Otago University's longitudinal study, which has been carried out with more than 1,000 New Zealanders since they were born, forefronts a degree of self-control children attain at the age of 3, and this predicts happy, healthy and wealthy, how they will be happy, healthy and wealthy when they are as adults. Richie Poulton, the director of the study, says that self-control is an incredibly important trait, and the quote, "You could even think of it as an essential raw ingredient for life success." What huge expectations we have of ECE teachers. And in addition, to help children achieve this self-regulation. In addition, I think teachers have a lot of occupational hazards. For example, teachers are dealing with bad backs, injuries from carrying babies, children, and heavy pay equipment, loss of hearing because of a very noisy environment, maybe being hurt by a child accidentally, or I think they're subjected to infection, illnesses and diseases. I think they have job insecurity, and this is getting more common in the community centres. A lack of sufficient recognition and low monetary reward for hours worked. Why would you want to go into this profession? Isn't it simple? These children are our future leaders and politicians. They're a long-term investment for us all. So value the children and pay the professionals. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Karen Gervin and I'm an early childhood teacher from Taupua. I've been teaching in early childhood for 11 years. I hold a Bachelor of Teaching ECE along with a postgrad in Specialist Teaching Early Intervention, which was awarded to me in 2015. As such, I'm a fully qualified early intervention teacher and a degree holding fully qualified ECE teacher. I have worked in 3 kindergartens within the Waikato and the Hiratonga associations for 10 years of my career. Recently, I have taught in private for-profit and in community not-for-profit centres. My shift out of working in the free kindergarten setting, which has pay parity with primary, much higher funding rates and so on, to work in other centres has meant that I have taken a $10 per hour pay drop. I hope the new kindergarten collective agreement currently being negotiated maintains parity with the primary teachers' pay scale. As you will know, primary teachers have recently won a big pay increase. But it will mean that the disparity in wages for me as an early childhood teacher will be even greater. By not working with older children in a primary school setting or in the free kindergarten setting, but working in another publicly funded and licensed early childhood education setting, I will be effectively earning $14 less per hour once pay parity within the kindergarten collective is renewed. And let me make this clear. That means that I am being paid $14 less per hour than another teacher with the same university qualification, experience and expertise doing exactly the same job. Why are teachers discriminated against by the type of the setting they work in? As early childhood teachers, we are indeed the Cinderella. We are treated badly and we are not valued. It's appalling, it's degrading, it is ignorant. And kindergarten teachers being paid more is unfair and there is no justification for it. Sadly, I hear fellow ECE teachers say, yep, but I get paid a pittance, but I love my job. But the wage is one that is very difficult to live on if you wish to live independently. Why should our love for children and support of them be used against us to make us compliant, to make us slaves, to make it that we have to accept and be grateful for any wage? But we accept it because we are dumbed down, and that's where that thinking comes from, a dumbed down space. Financially, poor wages means I'm worried a lot. After groceries, mortgage rates and basic utility bills, there's nothing left week to week. I have 2 children who are financially dependent on me. I'm 51 years old and I need to build a nest egg for my retirement. NZEI currently has a pay equity claim movement happening for ECE. There is a historical legal mechanism in place providing a lever for us to succeed in this predominantly women's work claim. But we are teaching professionals. We deserve more than pay equity. It's showing that New Zealand society does not value its young children when we say when there is such discrimination in pay. We want and we deserve pay parity. I know pay in ECE is complicated. Issues include some private centres operating solely for the purpose of profiteering, collective versus individual contracts, and having a strong union membership or not. But the government can make changes if they want to. ECE services do not all pass on funding to teachers that is provided in the funding incentive for the employment of qualified teachers. The minimum wage level set by the Ministry of Education for attestation to receive funding for employing certified teachers are very low. It is seen to be acceptable that employers pay very low wages, and we see lobbyists for some service providers crying out for more funding due to a teacher shortage that they have essentially created because of their treatment of teachers.
Yes, hear, hear.
The power lies with the government and the ministry to influence ECE wages, not with the union. Pay parity is possible through a central funding model where all licensed ECE services that employ qualified and certificated teachers receive the same percentage funding rates and the same rules under which to administer it, i.e. a high proportion must be used as wages. But we have to make the government want to. Us teachers are getting restless, but are we restless enough? I believe not. I believe we need to get out there in the media on the back of the recent massive primary and secondary coverage and tell the New Zealand public the truth. Lay the disparity out there. Stand with free kindergartens, right, to be paid the same as primary and secondary teachers, and demand the same for all teachers, whatever licensed ECE service they work in. March to the steps of Parliament en masse, contact our local MPs, all of these things and more. I personally have written twice over the past few months to both Jacinda Ardern and Chris Hipkins, voicing my concerns over ECE pay. I've had one reply, with Chris Hipkins referring me to the 10-year Early Childhood Education Strategic Plan coming out sometime. Not good enough. We need change, and we need it now. A teacher is a teacher is a teacher. Hira katoa. Better times are coming. Kia ora.
Kia ora, my name is Bethany O'Hagan and I've been teaching in ECE for 19 years and I'm currently a supervisor at a centre on the beautiful Kapiti coast. I firstly want to say thank you for having me and that it is a privilege to be asked to share today. I love my profession and getting to be a part of many wonderful moments each and every day. However, things need to change in order for things to improve, and that is why I'm here today. As even though I love my profession, there are so many things that are starting to, weigh this love and passion down. Here are a few of my thoughts. In society, we are not often looked at as professionals, despite many of us having studied long and hard to gain Bachelor of Teaching or higher. I also feel that our pay is totally disgraceful. When all the research shows that not any early childhood education is okay, but quality early childhood education is key to having better outcomes when they are older. Research and evidence has also shown that those first 1,000 days lay the foundation for the rest of children's lives. So why are so many still viewed as babysitters and paid minimum wage? At first, I find the quality in centres is being marred by overworked, underpaid and totally stressed out teachers. People outside the industry might be wondering why there is such a teacher shortage, but just ask us early childhood educators and we can tell you why. There are a few contributing factors. The main reason for most of us is our pay is appalling for the amount of work, skill and knowledge we are required to have on a daily basis, and it seems to just keep on coming, with more new initiatives and documents coming to us all the time. These are all amazing resources and we love them. However, most of us who don't get teacher-only days, extra release times, we are having to find time to read and understand these documents at home in our time. While our families and lives suffer, I have really started questioning my desire to stay in this sector. I know of a lot of teachers in many different centres who are on $1 more than staff that are just starting at Kmart, who are with their new living wage rollout. These staff are fully qualified, registered teachers with over 10 years ECE teaching and incredible teachers. Then people again question, why are we leaving to go to other professions? However, I am not in a position of being a centre owner or the Minister of Education to change their incomes or working conditions. And my pay as a supervisor, I must add, is not much better than theirs, with the added stresses on top. It is time for us to stand as a collective and get those around us to also stand up for our amazing profession. We need to make ourselves heard by the government and society as a whole, as we have so much value and are key in shaping the world, shaping the next generation of world changes. However, if we all sit back and hope someone else will do it for us, we will continue to see our sector forgotten about. I will not let this happen, will you? I would like to leave you with the words of Dame Thina Cooper. Take care of our children, take care of what they hear, take care of what they see, take care of what they feel, for how the children grow, so will be the shape of Aotearoa. Thank you so much.
Probably feeling being close to 5 o'clock now, that it's feeling a bit tired and hungry maybe. But Nicola, is it possible, would you feel happy to come up and make some closing comments, some thoughts, having listened to everybody?
I'll just be very brief because I can sense that people are ready to go on to the next thing. So I just want to acknowledge all of the speakers. Thank you. A lot of you put a lot of heart and emotion into what you said, and I think we all listened intently, so thank you for sharing your experiences and your wisdom. I certainly learned a lot from what I heard today, and I'll be reflecting deeply on it. I want to again acknowledge all of you and the work that you do, and to say that if you have ideas about what should be happening in early childhood education, of course, lobby the government. They're the ones who can change the policy immediately, but please do share your thoughts with me too. I am National's Early Childhood Education spokesperson, and I'm keen to develop good policy in this area. Thank you.